Dear students of class 8, today's teaching, lesson 4, the French Revolution. The French Revolution, the first point, social inequality. You know, before the revolution, in a previous video, I taught you about the autocratic rule of Louis XVI and what was about the situation of the people of France and how was it happened, the occurrence of French Revolution in the year 1789. In my previous video I taught you. Now I am going to explain about inequality in the society, social inequality. Before the revolution, French society was referred to as the ancient regime, means ancient rule. It was divided into 3 estates: the first estate, the second estate, and the third estate. The king was at the top of the 3 estates, but belonged to none of these 3 estates. Now, the first estate consisted of the clergy, means PS class people who work in the churches. They were known as PS class people, means clergy. They owned the maximum wealth but paid no taxes. Second estate consisted of, the nobility. That means barons, knights, or members of the royal family. They belong to nobility. They also own a lot of wealth but paid no taxes. And third estate consisted of everyone else. That means the doctors, engineers, professors, lawyers, teachers, traders, and of course peasants or farmers. They all belong to the third estate. Third estate had to bear the huge load or burden of tax. They also had to bear the load of the 2 classes, first estate and second estate. Because the 2 estates, the first estate and second estate, they did not pay any taxes. But the third estate, they would have to pay all taxes imposed on them. So, in the 18th century, the existing social and political system in France was called the ancient regime, as I taught you earlier. It was a feudal society where the king, under the rule of the divine kings, they were ruled, people were ruled, and society was divided, as I taught you, 3 estates. First estate comprised clergy, already I taught you, and now first and second estate enjoy all the privileges, but privileges and liberties. But the third estate, they could not enjoy. They could not enjoy because of their miserable condition, because of their poverty. They could not enjoy the same privileges, same rights as the first and second estates they enjoyed. That's why the third estate always deprived of such privileges and rights. And their life also had become very miserable, very deplorable. Because of that reason, they were unhappy. They had no peace in their mind because they were treated by the people of the first and second estates equally and wanted to change wanted to change in the structure of the society. And that's why it gave rise to widespread inequality and discontentment. And this discontent among the majority of the French people, French population, played a vital role in the French Revolution of 1789. Now, rise of middle class. The 3 estates I taught, now rise of the middle class. Rise of the middle class. As I taught you earlier, that third estate consisted of lawyers, teachers, doctors, engineers, and traders, and of course peasants and farmers. But out of them, businessmen and traders who belong to the third estate, their condition was rich. They were prosperous, rich. Why? Because they earn money and enjoyed a very steady life than others, means than professors, the doctors, teachers, lawyers, peasants and farmers. They enjoyed, they led a very happy life, a steady life, because of their earnings, because of their income. Although they had to pay huge amount of taxes, but their earnings, their income was too much high. That's why they had not faced any trouble in paying taxes to the royal treasury, but led a very happy life. Meanwhile, they felt that it was that act of inequality in the society should be immediately changed. Since they belong to the same society, why should they pay taxes? Why should not the other two classes pay taxes? They should be paid tax. They must pay taxes, but they are not paying taxes. What is this? Why is this inequality? They raised question, and they started spending money in order to protect themselves from being discriminated at the hands of first estate and second estate. And since the king was at the top of the social structure, and he himself led a very luxurious life along with his wife, that's why people angered, people grew offended against the system, against the life the king as well as his wife were leading. And that's why the rise of middle class and although the people belonging to this group, means trading group, had no access to the political power. That's why they always tried to make up their defects by means of make them free of the control of the two classes, the clergy and the nobility. That's why they played the most important role in usuring in the revolution. This group of people were known as bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie means rich and prosperous traders of the third estate. They were known as bourgeoisie. So the role of bourgeoisie in the French Revolution also had become a very important phase of their struggle. The next one, economic crisis. Economic crisis. What is the economic crisis? The time when, during the War of Independence, during the War of Independence, the French people as well as French revolutionaries, they encouraged the French revolutionaries, the American revolutionaries. How? By extending their cooperation for giving the British, for teaching the British a good lesson. How? Because the British oppressive rule, the British colonialism, the British established their colony in 13. The British established 13 colonies in North America, and they kept on imposing huge amount of taxes on the Americans. Americans had no dignity, no honor. In my previous videos, I taught you about this. That's why the people of America wanted to come out of their golden prison and wanted to establish their own rule. They wanted to establish an independent country at the cost of their own efforts. And what they had been dreaming, it proved to be realized. How? By the steady leadership, bold leadership of whom? Of George Washington. So, right that moment, who was the king of France? That time, Louis XVI was the king of France. Louis XVI encouraged the American revolutionaries to make their country free from the control of the British colonial rule. That's why Louis XVI spent a lot of money, and as a result of it, the royal treasury had become almost nil, almost empty, because of his own lifestyle, because of huge amount of expenditure he spent for making America free free of the control of the British colonial rule. He did it with a view to taking same financial help from America. Whenever America would become an independent country, in return for their help or economic assistance, America would also help France by sanctioning money, by spending money for the growth of France. But ultimately, the people of France, they grew offended. They did not allow the French King Louis XVI to rule further. Why? Because of his oppressive rule. The treasury, the royal treasury, which had become almost empty because of not only spending money for helping American revolutionaries, but also for leading a very luxurious lifestyle of the king himself and his wife Marie Antoinette. But far from helping the people of France, they decided to impose high amount of taxes on the American people, French people, especially the third estate. First estate and second estate, they did not pay any amount of tax, but the third estate. So they imposed high amount of taxes on the third estate, and third estates wanted to make a steady change. They wanted to make a very immediate change in the structure of the society. That's why he wanted to have a desperate change in the system of governance. That's why they played a vital role in the French Revolution. And apart from this, the country which was in the economic reform, the king did not make any economic reform. On the contrary, Louis XVI imposed high amount of taxes on the third estate. Third estate did not want to pay a single amount of tax, but they were forced to pay taxes whenever they failed to produce crops. They were unable to pay money. They were forced to contribute their agricultural products for the royal, for the satisfaction of the king's queen. That's why they would have to contribute the products or agricultural produces, whatever they would cultivated from their agricultural lands. That's why, and besides, the king, at the time when the people were thinking of organizing revolution, agitation against the French king Louis